Good day, I'm Roel Nieuwenkamp. I'm the chair of the OECD committee that deals with corporate responsibility. And I'm delighted to show up at your conference on corporate governance and corporate responsibility by video. My main point will be that there's a strong need for new business models. And in fact, corporate boards should embed sustainability into their corporate DNA and in its value chain. The Volkswagen scandal dealt with cheating consumers, cheating taxpayers, cheating governments, cheating the climate. And this scandal showed a failure of the company's consumer policy, its integrity policy, and its corporate responsibility policies. But it also highlighted the failure of corporate governance. Cheating shareholders, in other words. And the loss of billions in shareholder value highlighted how much the company's oversight failed, as well as its risk management systems. So there's a strong need for a new business model. Corporate boards should practice what I'd like to term sustainable corporate governance. In other words, companies should embed corporate sustainability and corporate responsibility into their corporate DNA, and it also needs to be embedded into the DNA of their value chains. Companies can outsource their production, but they cannot outsource their responsibility or their sustainability impacts. In these times of global interconnectivity and also hyper-visibility, that every person has a camera, the impact of a company's value chains cannot be detached anymore from the oversight of the board. And there's a moral case and a business case for all of this. The international standards on corporate responsibility expect companies to manage their environmental and their social impacts throughout their operations. And the OECD guidelines for multinational enterprises are the most comprehensive standard in this regard. They represent a multilateral agreement on corporate responsibility existing of 46 governments that still represent more than 80% of the global economy. And they are also having a huge, unique complaints mechanism about corporate misconduct. And this is very much relevant for Southeast Asia, because this system of corporate misconduct complaints has been dealing with cases and complaints that were directly related to Southeast Asian economies. Land grabbing in the sugar industry in Cambodia, for example. But also human rights issues in the palm oil plantations in Indonesia and Malaysia. They dealt with human rights issues related to nickel mine in the Philippines, issues of indigenous peoples related to a dam in Laos, etc., etc. And Southeast Asian economies are becoming even more relevant for global value chains. So the issue of corporate responsibility in these value chains are reaching Southeast Asia more and more. For example, Vietnam is poised to be one of the biggest players in the textile sector. Myanmar just opened up. They will be a major exporter of minerals. And that's why it's so important for Southeast Asia to be there. There's also a business case to all of this. And businesses in Southeast Asia are learning that environmental and social risks, including human rights issues, can pose material risks to the company, including serious reputational damage. Opportunity cost in the form of lost business opportunities. Sometimes direct costs arising from lost productivity because of suspension of work or shutdowns, senior staff time being diverted to managing these issues. And of course, some companies in Southeast Asia have been kicked out of global value chains because of issues related to labor standards or, for example, deforestation issues, etc. So this business case is becoming increasingly clear. So what does sustainable corporate governance mean? Well, I'd just like to pick up on a couple of points. First of all, risk management. And in today's modern economy, where supply chains span the globe, dozens of countries and thousands of suppliers and business relationships, an expectation of supply chain responsibility can be really daunting. And we need to have a realistic and reasonable expectation. And the OECD guidelines recommend that companies engage in risk-based due diligence, which is a reasonable expectation. The OECD also provides sector-specific guidance for the extractive industries, for the garment industries, for the agricultural industries, and also for the financial sector. And it includes recommendations for integrating due diligence in the management systems, and in order to avoid negative environmental impacts and negative impacts on labor or human rights. Promoting due diligence in these sectors as they continue to grow in Southeast Asia will be an opportunity to ensure that this growth is achieved in a sustainable and inclusive way without harming local populations or the environment. Second point, what is the role of the corporate board? Well, traditionally the issues of sustainability and corporate governance were siloed, so they didn't meet each other. And this partly explains why a company like Volkswagen got in trouble. And in fact, now we see that there is a fiduciary duty of the board to manage these environmental and social risks, because they can result in significant commercial impacts and, like in the Volkswagen case, huge shareholder damage. This means that there needs to be a clear board buy-in of upper management on responsible business conduct, and they have to integrate it into the company's policies and align company practice with international instruments such as the UN Guiding Principles for Business and Human Rights and the OECD guidelines for multinationals. And in addition to this, the boards should have clear oversight role in this field and be directly responsible for it. Third element is sustainable remuneration, because many companies are easy to declare that they are doing a lot in the field of corporate sustainability, and they point to all kinds of corporate successes in this regard. However, unless sustainability is clearly linked to the incentives in the company and to measures of performance, it can be simply window dressing, or it can be only a sideshow within the company. So the board should play a role in establishing the right incentives for sustainability, and that could mean, for example, integrating sustainability experience and also performance into recruitment criteria for upper management, or building responsible business elements into remuneration packages. Finally, fourth point is sustainability reporting. The board should be involved in communicating on responsible business conduct through reporting, such as policies, compliance with codes of conduct, for example, regarding environmental and social human rights issues. To conclude, sustainability should be embedded into the DNA of the business and into their value chains. That's the emerging business model. In this regard, corporate boards should practice sustainable corporate governance by ensuring that sustainability standards are upheld throughout their global business operations, that incentive structures are linked to sustainability performance, and that they engage in meaningful reporting on sustainability issues. Thank you very much.